So today we're going to talk about 2.1 multiplying integers. For this, there is actually a brand new set of rules. So when we added and subtracted, we did same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract and take. Now I want you to completely forget about that for this right now because we are going to learn a new set of rules for how to multiply, okay? These are different rules from adding and subtracting. All right, so these are rules for multiplying. Once again, we learned rules for adding and subtracting. Today we learn rules for multiplying, okay? If you have an even amount of negative signs, your answer will always be positive. What are even numbers?
2, 4, 6, 8.
2, 4, 6, and 8, okay? So if you have 2, 4, 6, or 8 negative signs, then your answer is going to be positive. So let's look at this first example right here. -2, remember these parentheses right here mean multiply, times -5. How many negative numbers do I have right here?
2.
There are 2 negative numbers, okay? So is 2 an even number or an odd number? It's an even number, so guess what? When you have an even amount of negative signs, your answer will always be what? Positive, okay? So notice right here, your answer is what? 10, positive 10, because there were 2 negative signs. Let's go down here. If you have an odd amount of negative signs, your answer will always be what? Negative, okay? So let's look right here. How many negative signs do I have? 3 of them. So when you put your sign first, you're going to automatically know that's an odd number. And every time that you have an odd number, your answer will always be what? It's going to be negative, okay? So look at this. -2 times -3 times -5. We automatically know our answer is going to be negative, and then you just multiply like regular. What's 2 times 3? 6. And what's 6 times 5? 30. But once again, since you already knew your answer was negative, your answer is -30. Let's look at this second example over here. How many negative signs do you see here?
2.
How many negative signs? Not how many numbers, but how many negative signs? There's only 1. Is that even or odd? The number 1 is odd. So whenever you have an odd amount, your answer will always be what? It will always be negative. So I'm going to put a negative like I have right there, and then you just multiply like normal. What's 2 times 4? 8. So your answer is -8. Okay, so these are brand new rules. We're going to use these. We're going to practice a few over here. Find the product. Let's look at the first one. Nikki, how many negative signs do I have?
2.
There are 2. Is that an even number or an odd number? Even. When you have an even number of negative signs, is my answer going to be positive or negative?
Positive.
It is positive. So I know my answer is positive. And then what is 5 times 6?
5 times 6?
30. All right, excellent job. Let's go ahead and come over here to problem B. Cameron, how many negative signs do I have in 4 times -6? 1. So we know my answer is going to be what? Positive or negative? Negative, because that's an odd number. And what's 4 times 6? 24. So your answer is -24. Let's go on to the next one. William, 3 times -4. How many negative numbers do I have?
1.
There is 1. So will my answer be negative or positive?
It will be negative.
It will be negative. And what's 3 times 4?
12. So it's -12.
It is -12. Excellent work. Let's go on to the next one. 5 times 5. There's nothing tricky here. It's just a normal problem. What's 5 times 5? 25. All right, the next one. -25 times 0. What's that answer? 0. Should it be -0?
No.
Why not?
0 is not negative.
0 will never be negative or positive, okay? I don't have -$0 and I don't have positive $0. I just have $0, okay? So 0 is the answer. Make sure you do not put -0 because that will be counted wrong. All right, let's go on to the next one. Javaria, -1 times -9. Because remember, whenever we have these parentheses here, that means to multiply. How many negative signs do I have? 2. So because I have 2, is that an even number or an odd number? That's an even number, and whenever you have an even number of negative signs, your answer will always be positive. So Javaria, what's my answer? Positive 9 is correct. Any questions on how we just did those multiply? Okay, let's go ahead and do a little bit of a review. I want you guys to write these down in your notes. This is all about PEMDAS and it is talking about order of operations, the order in which you need to do things in a problem. So according to PEMDAS, what does P stand for? Parentheses, okay? So since that's at the top, we'll do parentheses first. What does E stand for? Exponents, okay? Now the next thing, can someone explain to me why I have multiplication and division on the same line instead of multiplication and then division underneath? Taylor. Okay, correct. You are going to do them according to what comes first from left to right, okay? So it does not necessarily mean multiplication comes first. If division comes first in the problem, you'll do the division before the multiplication. And remember, the same thing is true for the addition and subtraction. You just work from left to right to see what should come first. So let's use some of those rules as we do this right here for number 2, evaluate the expression. So here what we're going to do is try to find the sign first before we move on and find the correct answer. This says -2 squared. Nehemiah, what does that mean I have to do for -2 squared?
2 times 2.
Not 2 times 2. What's in parentheses?
-2 times 2.
There you go, okay? So this means I'm doing -2 times -2. So Nehemiah, how many negative signs do I have there? 2. That's an even number. So my answer will always be a positive. So what's 2 times 2? 4, and we know that it's going to be a positive. Next up, notice these look kind of similar, -2 squared and -2 squared. What's the difference between problem A and B? The parentheses, okay? So here's what's going to happen. You are just going to drop down this negative, and now we are going to do our exponents, 2 squared. Sierra, what do I do for 2 squared? What does that mean? 2 times 2. Okay, so I'm going to bring that down. 2 times 2. All right, what's the answer, guys?
Negative.
Good job. We got to drop down that negative, and then -4 is the correct answer. So notice carefully, although the problems look similar, are the answers the same? No, one was a positive and one was a negative. So look carefully. If there's no parentheses there, it changed the way that we found our answer. Next one, Madison. -2 times 17 times -5. Because this is not a calculator chapter, what we want to do sometimes is find easier ways to do things. You might not necessarily know right off the top of your head what -2 times 17 would be, but do you guys think that you would know what -2 times -5 would be?
Yes.
Okay, so Madison, if I have 2 negatives there, is my answer going to be negative or positive? It's going to be positive. So what's 2 times 5? 10. Very good job. And then I'm going to drop down times 17. Madison, what's 10 times 17? All right, 170 is correct. Good job. Okay, according to PEMDAS, what should I do first on problem D? Parentheses, okay? Now, this is going back to our old rules. -3 plus 4. So we are adding and subtracting. What's our rules for adding and subtracting? Same sign, add and keep, different signs, subtract and take. Do I have the same sign or a different sign here? Different signs. So subtract the numbers and take the sign of the larger number. What do you get in parentheses? Okay, it's just plain old 1. Now because I had parentheses there, I'm going to keep my parentheses and then drop down everything else. Alexis, what's -6 times 1? Okay, and do I keep the negative or let it float away? You keep the negative because there was an odd number of negative signs, so my answer has to be negative. All right, next one, Brody. -2 times -5. How many negative numbers do I have? 2. Is that even or odd? Even. And when I have an even number of negative signs, my answer is always positive. What's the answer? 10. Very good job. Next up. 4 squared. We're going to go ahead and do the 4 squared first, okay? So because the negative is not in parentheses, it does not mean -4 times -4. I'm going to drop the negative down, and then Ayana, what is 4 squared? Not 4 times 2. It's 4 times 4 because it's 4 times itself, okay? So what's 4 times 4? 16, and then I'm going to bring down multiply by 2. Now, Ayana, should my answer be negative or positive? Very good. It's negative because there's an odd number of negative signs. And now we're just going to do normal multiplication. What is 16 times 2?
42.
Not 42.
32.
32. Okay, and so our final answer is negative 32. All right, so I know these were different kinds of rules. Just remember, if there's an even number of negative signs, your answer is always positive. If there's an odd number of negative signs, your answer is always negative. Now we're going to go ahead and go on to a little riddle for modeling real life. You solve a number puzzle on your phone. You start with 250 points. You finish the puzzle in 8 minutes and 45 seconds, and you make 3 mistakes. Each mistake is worth negative 50 points, and each second under 10 minutes gives you 1 point bonus. What is your final score? All right, so we're going to do some different things here. Let's just look first at each mistake is how much? Negative 50. And how many mistakes did we make?
3.
3. So how do I figure out how many points I lost?
You just subtracted times or multiply.
Okay, multiply what? These are our mistakes.
You would do negative 50 times 3.
You are correct. Because there were 3 mistakes, I'm multiplying it, okay? Now, you could go negative 50 plus negative 50 plus negative 50. In our case, we're just going to multiply it. So for our mistakes, how many points are we losing, class?
Negative 150.
Negative 150 points. Now, there was a way for us to get some positive points added to our score. What was that?
Like
1 second under 10 minutes.
Okay, every second that we did under 10 minutes. What was our time that we finished the puzzle?
8 minutes and 45 seconds.
8 minutes and 45 seconds. That means I gained some time. How much time did I gain in doing this? 1 minute and 15 seconds. How many seconds is that total?
75.
Okay, because 1 minute is 60 seconds. So we know that is 60 plus 15, which is what? 75. Are those positive or negative points? Those are going to be some positive points. Okay, so now we get to go ahead and try to figure out what our answer is going to be. How many points did I start off with?
250.
250. How many points do I have to subtract?
150.
Minus 150. And how many do I get to add to that?
75.
Plus 75. So let's just work from left to right. First things first, what is 250 minus 150?
100.
Okay, 100 plus 75. What's 100 plus 75?
175.
Okay, now this is a modeling real life, so I have to have units attached. You can always find out what the units should be whenever you go back and reread what it's talking about. So now my final score is 175 points. Very good job. And then go ahead and box your answer in. Good job, guys. I want you to go ahead and try the think, pair, share on your own. So go ahead and try to do problems numbers 1 through 7. All right, guys, here we go. We're going to go ahead and go through a few. I hope that you were able to talk to your partner and get some answers. Let's look at the first one. -1 times -9. What's the answer? 9 is correct because 2 negatives makes it a positive. -25 times 0? 0. Let's go ahead and talk about the next ones. What are some answers you guys got for number 3? What'd you get? -5. What else? -3. Okay, who got something other than -5 or -3? Raise your hand if you got one of those answers. What'd you get? 4. -5 or -3. One of those answers is correct. Let's go ahead and talk through and figure out which one was correct, okay? According to PEMDAS, what should I do first? Parentheses, okay? So I'm going to bring down -4. Guys, what is 3 squared? 9 minus 8 plus 1. Okay, so what is, let's do these parentheses. What's 9 minus 8? 1. So I'm going to have -4 times 1 plus 1. Who would say you at least got this far? Okay, what should I do first? Multiplying or adding? Multiplying comes first. Think about our rules. There is 1 negative there. So should this answer be negative or positive? 1 negative is odd. So it should be negative. What's -4 times 1? -4, and then bring down +1. Now listen, how many of you got at least this far? This is adding or subtracting integers. We are no longer multiplying. So you have to think back to the rules I taught you last week and the week before. Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract and take. Is this the same sign or a different sign? Different sign. Subtract the numbers, take the sign of the larger number. What's the answer? -3.
Oh, yeah, I got it right.
If you did not get that right on your own, please erase it and fix it. Make sure every step is correct as we have it up here on the board. Let's talk through this, okay? What should I do first according to PEMDAS? Okay, is there any work to do inside of these parentheses? Nope, so not parentheses. What should I do first?
Exponents.
Exponents. Guys, what's 3 squared?
9.
9. So let's bring this down. 12 minus 9 times -2. What should I do first? Subtraction or multiplication?
Multiplication.
Okay, according to PEMDAS, it tells us we have to do multiplication first. What is 9 times -2?
18.
-18. There's one negative, so we have to keep the negative. What else should I bring down?
The 12 and the 9.
The 12 and the minus sign. So this means 12 minus -18. What do I have there?
Double negative.
What is the double negative happens? Turns it into a positive. Guys, what is 12 plus 18? 30.
Oh my gosh.
All right, good job to the 1.5 of you that got that correct.
1.5.
Because he had 30 and then erased it.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's look at this next one. This is a kind of problem you might have on your homework, and this is what it says. Your friend evaluates the expression. Are they correct? Look at it carefully. Raise your hand if you think yes, they're correct. Who would say no, they're not correct? Okay, someone raise your hand and explain to me why they are not correct. Nikki.
2 negatives equals a positive?
You are correct. 2 negative numbers equals a positive answer. Okay, because it said explain, you do want to make sure that you have some kind of an explanation there. Your words might not sound exactly the same, but as long as you mean about the same thing, that's totally fine. 2 negatives equals a positive. Good job, Nikki. Let's go on to number 6. True or false? The product of 3 negative integers is positive. This is what helps me to write a visual. Sometimes true and false can be tricky. So it says 3 negative integers. So that would be like -1 times -2 times -3. Okay? Should that answer be positive or negative, class?
Negative.
Why should it be negative?
Because it's an odd number and negative.
Because it's an odd number of negatives, the answer should have been a negative. So the correct answer was?
False.
False is correct. Okay? If I did this right here, -1 times -2 would be 2, and 2 times -3 would have been -6. Okay? Let's go on to the next one. True or false do you guys think for number 7? All right, I heard some true, I heard some false. The product of 3 positive integers, so let's just do 1 times 2 times 3. Should that be positive or negative?
Positive.
It should be positive. What would that answer be?
Wait.
What's 1 times 2 times 3?
That's 6.
It would be 6, which is a positive, so that answer was true. Okay? At this time, I want you guys to go ahead and pull out a piece of paper, and please write this down for your homework.